The marketplace on Valoria 9 was always crowded on trading days. Hundreds of different species moved between the stalls, buying and selling goods from across the galaxy. The air smelled like a mixture of strange spices, fuel, and things that had no name in human languages. Jiwoo Park walked through the crowd with her hands in her jacket pockets. She was off duty today, which meant no uniform and no weapon on her hip, just a simple security officer enjoying her free time. She had been stationed at the Terran embassy for 6 months now, and she liked these walks through the market. It reminded her that the galaxy was bigger than just reports and patrol routes. She stopped at a fruit stand run by a small, blue-skinned merchant. The little alien was barely 3 feet tall, with 4 arms and large, worried eyes. Jiwoo smiled at him and pointed to something that looked like a purple orange. "How much?" she asked. The merchant opened his mouth to answer, but a loud voice interrupted them. "Move, little creature. We want this space." Jiwoo turned to see 6 large aliens approaching the fruit stand. They were Kravoth warriors, easy to recognize. They stood over 7 feet tall, with thick scales covering their bodies like armor. Their faces were reptilian, with sharp teeth visible even when their mouths were closed. Each one wore combat gear marked with military symbols. The small merchant backed away from his stand, all 4 arms trembling. "Please, honored warriors, I have paid for this space. The market master gave me permission." The largest Kravoth, who had metal decorations on his armor, laughed. It was not a kind sound. "We do not care about your permissions, insect. Move or we will move you." Jiwoo felt her jaw tighten. She had seen this before. Bullies were the same everywhere in the galaxy. They picked on those who could not fight back. "Hey," she said, keeping her voice calm. "Leave him alone. He was here first." All 6 Kravoth turned to look at her. For a moment they seemed confused, as if they could not believe what they had heard. Then the leader's eyes focused on the patch on her jacket, the Earth symbol. A human? The leader's mouth split into something that might have been a smile. "A human tells us what to do?" How amusing, his warriors laughed with him. One of them stepped closer to Jiwoo, looking down at her. She was 5'6". He was over 7 feet. The difference was obvious. "Go away, soft skin," the warrior said. "This does not concern your weak species." Jiwoo did not move. She had been trained for situations like this at the academy. De-escalation first. Always try to talk before anything else. "I'm just asking you to be fair," she said. "The merchant has a right to his space. Please, let's not make this a problem." The leader pushed past his warrior and stood directly in front of Jiwoo. This close, she could smell something like old leather and smoke on his breath. His eyes were yellow with black slits for pupils. "I am War Captain Threll of the Kravoth Empire," he said. "And you are nothing, a human. Your species joined the galaxy only 50 years ago. You know nothing of strength or honor. Now move before I move you myself." Jiwoo felt the eyes of the crowd on them. Other species had stopped their shopping to watch. Some were recording with their devices. This was going to spread fast if she was not careful. "I don't want any trouble," she said, keeping her hands visible and non-threatening. "I'm just asking you to show some respect. That's all." Threll's smile disappeared. "Respect? You ask me for respect?" He turned to his warriors. "Do you hear this? The human asks for respect." They all laughed again. The sound was ugly and mean. "Humans do not deserve respect," Threll continued, turning back to Jiwoo. "You are weak, soft. You talk about peace and fairness like children. In the real galaxy, strength is all that matters, and you have no strength." Jiwoo took a slow breath. She had been in difficult situations before. During her training on Earth, she had learned to stay calm even when people tried to provoke her. But she could feel something stirring in her chest, a small flame of anger that she needed to keep controlled. "Please," she said one more time, "just leave the merchant alone and walk away. Nobody needs to get hurt here." Threll stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that changed everything. He struck her across the face with the back of his scaled hand. Pain exploded across Jiwoo's cheek. She stumbled back 2 steps, her hand going to her face. She could taste blood in her mouth. The crowd gasped. Even some of the Kravoth warriors looked surprised. Jiwoo straightened up slowly. Her cheek was already swelling and she would have a nasty bruise. But that was not what mattered now. What mattered was that she had asked them to stop. She had given them every chance to walk away and they had hit her anyway. "Stop," she said quietly. "Please stop." Threll laughed and pushed her. She stumbled back again. "Weak, you see? Weak. His warriors moved to surround her, 6 of them now in a loose circle. The crowd backed away, giving them space. No one was going to help her. That was not how things worked in the galaxy. This was between her and the Krevoth. Jiwoo felt the flame in her chest growing hotter. She had trained for 6 years in hand-to-hand combat. She had studied human martial arts and military fighting systems. She knew exactly what she could do to these warriors, but she did not want to do it. Violence was always the last option. Her instructors had taught her. Always give them a chance to stop. "I'm asking you one more time," she said, her voice steady despite the pain in her face. "Please stop, walk away. This doesn't have to happen." One of the warriors pushed her from behind. Another grabbed at her jacket. They were playing with her now like predators with prey. Threll stepped close again. "What will you do, human? Will you cry? Will you run? Show us your weakness so the galaxy can see what your species truly is." Jiwoo looked into his yellow eyes. She saw cruelty there. She saw someone who had never been told no. Someone who thought strength meant hurting others. She took off her jacket slowly and handed it to the small fruit merchant, who had been watching with his 4 arms covering his mouth. "Hold this," she said to him gently. Then she turned back to the Krevoth. "I said stop," she repeated. "I said stop and you kept going. I gave you chances. I tried to be fair." She rolled her shoulders, feeling her muscles loosen. Her instructors' voices echoed in her mind. All those hours of training. All those lessons about control and restraint. And one more lesson, the most important one. When they won't stop, when they cross the line, when they leave you no choice, then you make sure they can't continue. "Last warning," Jiwoo said. "Stop now." Threll's response was to swing at her face again, but this time his fist hit nothing but air. Jiwoo had moved faster than he expected, and in that moment something changed in her eyes. The Krevoth warriors would later tell their people about that look. Cold, focused, dangerous. The human had asked them to stop. They had not listened. Now it was too late. Threll's fist passed through empty space where Jiwoo's head had been a second before. His eyes widened in surprise. Humans were not supposed to be that fast. Jiwoo ducked under his arm and moved to the side. Her body remembered the thousands of hours of training. Her instructors had drilled the movements into her until they became automatic. Duck, pivot, strike, but she did not strike yet. She was still hoping they would stop. "Please," she said one more time. "Don't make me do this!" The warrior behind her grabbed for her shoulders. This one was even bigger than Threll, with scars across his scaled face. He thought his size and strength would be enough. He was wrong. Jiwoo caught his wrist as he reached for her. She used his own momentum, pulling him forward while she stepped to the side. The warrior stumbled off balance. She swept his leg with her foot. It was a simple move, one she had practiced 10,000 times. The big warrior crashed to the ground hard enough to crack the stone beneath him. The crowd gasped again. A human had just dropped a Krevoth warrior. 8 seconds had passed. "Stay down," Jiwoo told the fallen warrior. "Please stay down." But he was already getting up, rage on his reptilian face. The other warriors charged at her all at once. They were not playing anymore. Now they wanted to hurt her. 2 of them came from her left side. They moved together, trying to corner her against a market stall. Jiwoo saw the stall behind her. It was selling metal pots and pans. Heavy ones. She grabbed a large iron pan from the display as she dodged the first warrior's grab. The merchant shouted something, but Jiwoo did not hear it. She was focused on survival now. The first warrior swung at her. She blocked his arm with the pan. The sound of scale hitting metal rang out across the marketplace. The warrior howled in pain. She spun and brought the pan around, hitting him in the side of his head. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to matter. He dropped like a sack of rocks. The second warrior hesitated. He had just seen a human take down 2 of his comrades in less than 20 seconds. His training told him to retreat. His pride told him to attack. Pride won. He rushed at her with both arms spread wide, trying to tackle her. Jiwoo dropped the pan and stepped into his charge instead of away from it. This confused him. His brain could not understand why prey would move toward a predator. She struck him 3 times in rapid succession. First in the throat, not hard enough to crush his windpipe, but hard enough to make breathing difficult. Then in the nerve cluster under his left arm, a weak point that humans had identified in Krevoth anatomy. Finally, a knee to his stomach that bent him forward. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. 3 down, 3 to go. Jiwoo's hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. Her breathing was fast but controlled. This was what her instructors called the combat state. The moment when the body flooded itself with chemicals that made you faster, stronger, able to ignore pain. Humans had evolved this response over millions of years. When ancient humans faced predators on Earth, their bodies had given them this gift, the ability to fight beyond their normal limits, to push through fear and pain and exhaustion. The aliens called it the human rage. They did not understand it. They had never needed it. But humans had been prey once, and they had learned how to become predators when they had no other choice. Threll stared at her with new eyes. 3 of his warriors were on the ground. A human had done this. A single human who was smaller and weaker than any of them. "Impossible," he whispered. "I asked you to stop," Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady, but there was something new in it. Something hard and cold. "I asked you multiple times." The remaining 3 warriors looked at their captain, waiting for orders. Threll's pride would not let him back down. Not in front of all these witnesses. Not in front of other species who were recording everything. "She is using tricks," Threll announced loudly. "Coward tricks. A real warrior faces their enemy with honor. Kill her." The word kill changed everything. Before, this had been a fight. Now it was attempted murder. Jiwoo felt the last bit of restraint slip away. If they were trying to kill her, she was allowed to defend herself with full force. One of the warriors pulled out a shock baton. It crackled with blue electricity. Those weapons could stop a heart if used correctly. The warrior grinned, thinking the fight was over. He swung the baton at Jiwoo's head. She ducked and moved inside his reach. Her elbow struck his wrist and the baton flew from his grip. She caught it in midair without even looking at it. The warrior's grin disappeared. Jiwoo had never used a Kravoth shock baton before, but weapons were weapons. The principles were the same. She pressed the activation button and drove it into the warrior's chest, right over his primary nerve column. Electricity surged through his body. He made a gurgling sound and collapsed. 4 down. The 5th warrior was smarter than his friends. He did not charge blindly. He circled around her looking for an opening. He was trained, Jiwoo realized. Actually trained, not just strong and mean. They moved around each other like dancers. The crowd had gone completely silent. Even the sound of the marketplace had faded. Everyone was watching the human and the Kravoth warrior. He feinted left, then attacked right, fast, almost fast enough. Jiwoo blocked his first strike but took his second one on her shoulder. Pain shot down her arm. He was strong, much stronger than a human. One good hit could break bones, but she had been hit before. Pain was just information. It told you that you were injured, but it did not have to stop you. Not yet. She struck back, aiming for his knee. Her kick connected and she heard something crack. The warrior screamed and stumbled. She followed up with the shock baton to his back. 5 down. Only War Captain Threll and 1 warrior remained. The last warrior looked terrified. He had just watched a human defeat 5 of his comrades. His hands were shaking. "Run," Jiwoo told him. "Please run. I don't want to hurt you." The warrior looked at Threll, then back at Jiwoo. She could see him making the calculation. Pride versus survival. For a moment, she thought he might choose survival. Then Threll roared, "Stand and fight, or I will kill you myself for cowardice." The warrior's shoulders slumped. He had no choice now. He charged at Jiwoo with a desperate cry. She almost felt sorry for him. He did not want to fight. He was being forced to. But that did not change what she had to do. She sidestepped his clumsy attack and struck him once in the back of his head with the baton. Not at full power. Just enough to knock him unconscious. He fell forward and did not move. 6 down. Well, 5 down and 1 unconscious. 12 minutes had passed since the fight began. Now only Threll remained. The war captain stood alone, surrounded by his fallen warriors. His face showed many emotions: anger, disbelief, and something new. Something that might have been fear. Jiwoo dropped the shock baton. It clattered on the stone ground. She was breathing hard now, and her shoulder throbbed where she had been hit. Her knuckles were bleeding. But she was still standing. "Are you going to stop?" she asked Threll. "Or are we going to keep doing this?" Threll pulled out a plasma blade from his belt. The weapon hummed to life, glowing red. It was a killing weapon designed to cut through armor and bone. The crowd gasped and backed away further. This was serious now. Plasma blades were restricted weapons. Using one in a marketplace was illegal. Jiwoo looked at the blade, then at Threll's face. She saw a man who had gone too far to back down. A man who would rather die than admit he was wrong. "Please," she said one last time. "Don't do this." Threll's response was to charge at her with the blade raised high, and Jiwoo realized that some people would never stop. Not with words, not with warnings, only when they could not continue anymore. She had given them every chance. Now she would give them something else. Threll came at her with the plasma blade cutting through the air. The red glow left trails in Jiwoo's vision. She had less than a second to react. Her training took over. When facing a blade, you had two choices: stay far away or get very close. The middle distance was where you died. Jiwoo chose close. She stepped into Threll's swing instead of away from it. The movement surprised him. His brain expected her to retreat. Instead, she moved inside his reach where the blade could not cut her. Her hand shot up and caught his wrist. Not trying to stop it completely, that would be impossible against his strength. Instead, she redirected it, pushing his arm past her body. The plasma blade hummed centimeters from her ear, close enough that she felt the heat. With her other hand, she struck Threll's elbow joint. It was a precise hit, targeting the weak point where his scales were thinnest. She heard him grunt in pain, and his grip on the blade loosened. Jiwoo twisted his wrist hard. Threll's hand opened involuntarily, and the plasma blade fell. She caught it before it hit the ground and threw it far away, into a fountain at the edge of the marketplace. The weapon sizzled and died as water touched it. Now they were even. No weapons. Just two beings fighting with what nature gave them. Threll swung at her face with his other arm. She ducked, but his backhand caught her shoulder, the same shoulder that was already injured. Pain exploded through her body, bright and sharp. She felt something grind inside the joint. Probably torn, but pain was distant now. The adrenaline in her blood made it seem like it was happening to someone else. She could feel it, acknowledge it, and then put it aside. Later she would hurt. Now she had work to do. She struck back, aiming for his ribs. Her fist connected with his scales, which felt like hitting stone. But between the scales there was softer tissue. She felt her knuckles split open, but she also felt him flinch. Threll grabbed at her with both hands, trying to get her in a hold. If he managed to lock his arms around her, his superior strength would crush her. She knew this. He knew this. She would not let him grab her. Jiwoo dropped low, almost to the ground, and swept his legs. It was the same move she had used on the first warrior, but Threll had seen it coming. He jumped back, avoiding the sweep. They circled each other again. Both breathing hard now. Both bleeding. The crowd watched in absolute silence. Some of the aliens had never seen a human fight before. They had thought humans were weak, diplomatic, peaceful. They were learning that peaceful was a choice, not a weakness. Threll feinted high and struck low. His fist crashed into Jiwoo's ribs. She felt something crack. The air rushed out of her lungs. She stumbled back, trying to breathe. He pressed his advantage, coming at her fast. Another punch, this one aimed at her head. If it connected, the fight would be over. Jiwoo raised her arms to block. His fist hit her forearms with tremendous force. She felt the bones groan under the impact, but the block held. Her head was safe. She countered with a kick to his knee. The same knee she had targeted before. It buckled slightly. He was slowing down. Good. They exchanged blows for what felt like hours, but was probably less than a minute. Threll hit her twice more. She hit him 4 times. She was faster, more precise. He was stronger, more durable. It was a question of who would break first. Jiwoo's vision started to blur at the edges. Blood loss and exhaustion were catching up to her. Her shoulders screamed every time she moved it. Her ribs felt like fire, but her mind was clear, cold, focused. She remembered her final instructor at the academy, Master Quan, an old man who had fought in 3 wars. He had told her something important. When you are hurt, when you are tired, when everything tells you to give up, that is when you find out what you really are. That is when humans show who they are. Jiwoo showed who she was. She let Threll hit her, a straight punch to her stomach that bent her forward and made her cough blood. But while his arm was extended, she grabbed it with both hands and twisted her whole body. It was a judo throw, one of the oldest techniques from Earth. She used his strength and momentum against him. His feet left the ground, and for a moment, War Captain Threll of the Kravoth Empire flew through the air. Then he hit the stone ground hard enough to crack it. The sound echoed through the marketplace. Birds that had been sitting on nearby buildings took flight. The crowd made a collective sound of shock. Threll lay on the ground, stunned. His armor had protected him from the worst of it, but the impact had knocked the air from his lungs. Jiwoo stumbled over to him. Each step took effort. Her body was screaming at her to stop, to rest, to lie down, but she could not. Not yet. She stood over Threll, looking down at him. He stared up at her with his yellow eyes, and for the first time she saw real fear there. "I asked you to stop," she said. Her voice was hoarse and blood dripped from her mouth. "I asked you so many times." Threll tried to get up. She put her foot on his chest, not hard, just enough pressure to keep him down. "Stay," she commanded. "Don't make me hurt you more." Around them, the 6 other warriors were starting to wake up. The ones who had been shocked were groaning. The ones who had been knocked unconscious were blinking and trying to remember where they were. Jiwoo heard sirens in the distance. Security was coming. Finally. Probably someone had called them when the plasma blade came out. She looked at the warriors, making sure each one saw her face. Making sure they understood what had happened here. "I gave you chances," she told them. "I tried to stop this peacefully. Remember that. Remember that I asked." One of the warriors, the scared one who had charged her at the end, nodded weakly. He would remember. They all would. The security teams arrived in armored vehicles. Officers from multiple species jumped out, weapons ready. They stopped when they saw the scene. One human woman standing among 7 Kravoth warriors, all of them on the ground. The security captain, a 4-armed Veltrin, approached slowly. His multiple eyes were wide with disbelief. "What happened here?" he demanded. Jiwoo took her foot off Threll's chest and stepped back. She nearly fell but caught herself. Everything hurt now. The adrenaline was fading and reality was catching up. "They attacked a merchant," she said simply. "I asked them to stop. They didn't." The captain looked at the warriors, then at Jiwoo. His eyes stopped on her identification patch. "Earth. Human. You did this?" he asked, unable to hide his shock. "Alone?" Jiwoo nodded. She was too tired to speak more. The small fruit merchant pushed through the crowd, still holding her jacket. He offered it to her with all 4 trembling arms. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for helping me." Jiwoo took the jacket and smiled at him, though it made her split lip hurt worse. "That's what we do," she said. Medical teams arrived and began treating everyone. The Kravoth warriors were taken away on stretchers, though none of them were seriously injured. Broken bones, torn muscles, electrical burns, but nothing permanent. Jiwoo had been careful about that even in the heat of combat. She had not wanted to kill them. She had just wanted them to stop. A medic tried to treat her shoulder, but she waved him off. "The warriors first," she said. "I can wait." The security captain was talking into his communication device, making a report. Jiwoo heard him say human and 7 Kravoth, and "You need to see the video to believe it." She sat down on the edge of the fountain, next to where Threll's plasma blade had sunk to the bottom. The water was cool and clear. She wanted to dive in and never come out, but people were gathering. Aliens from dozens of species all staring at her. Some were scared. Some were amazed. Some were recording her with their devices. By tomorrow, the entire galaxy would know what happened in the marketplace on Valoria 9. They would know that a human had been attacked, that she had asked them to stop, that they had not listened. And they would know what happened to those who did not listen when a human asked them to stop. 18 minutes. That was how long it had taken. 18 minutes from the first punch to the last warrior falling. Jiwoo looked at her bloody knuckles and smiled sadly. She had tried so hard to avoid this. She had given them every chance, but some lessons had to be learned the hard way. The video spread across the galaxy faster than light could travel. Within 6 hours, every major news network on every planet had a copy. Within 12 hours, it had been viewed 3 billion times. Within a day, everyone with access to the Galactic network had seen it. The footage was clear. Dozens of different aliens had recorded it from different angles. You could see everything. Jiwoo asking them to stop, asking again and again. You could see Threll strike her the first time. You could see her try to de-escalate even after being hit, and then you could see what happened when they would not stop. The reactions were immediate and divided. The Kravoth Empire issued a statement within hours demanding an investigation. They claimed their warriors had been poisoned or drugged. No human could defeat 7 trained Kravoth soldiers. It was impossible. Therefore, Jiwoo must have cheated somehow. Other species were not so sure. The video evidence was clear. No drugs, no tricks. Just a human who had been pushed too far. Ambassador Hyun Lee sat in his office at the Terran embassy, watching the news coverage on multiple screens. Each one showed the same thing from different angles. His security officer, a woman he had known for 6 months as quiet and professional, fighting like something from Earth's ancient warrior legends. His communication device had not stopped ringing. Every embassy on Valoria 9 wanted to talk to him. Every news agency wanted interviews. Even Earth Command had called asking what the hell was happening out there. There was a knock on his door. "Come in," he said. Jiwoo entered, her right arm in a sling and bandages wrapped around her ribs. The medical team had fixed most of the damage, but she would need rest. Her face was bruised, and she moved carefully like each step hurt. "You wanted to see me, Ambassador?" she asked. Hyun gestured to a chair. "Sit, please." She sat slowly, wincing as her ribs protested. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I got hit by 7 large reptiles," she answered with a small smile. Hyun could not help but smile back. Even injured, she kept her sense of humor. "The medical team says you will be fine in a few days. Accelerated healing is wonderful technology." "Yes, sir." He turned off the news screens and looked at her directly. "Jiwoo, do you understand what you have done?" She looked confused. "I defended myself and a civilian. I followed protocols. I gave them multiple warnings. I used appropriate force to neutralize the threat." "That is not what I mean," Hyun said. "You have changed how the galaxy sees humanity. Before yesterday, most species thought we were weak, diplomatic, good at talking, but not much else." "And now?" Jiwoo asked. "Now they're afraid," Hyun said simply. "Or at least they are reconsidering everything they thought they knew about us." He pulled up a series of reports on his desk screen. "The Kravoth Empire is demanding your arrest. 3 other warrior species have filed formal protests, claiming you must have used illegal enhancement drugs. But do you know what else is happening?" Jiwoo shook her head. 17 species that previously rejected our trade agreements have sent new proposals. 5 species that refused to meet with us before are requesting diplomatic meetings. And the Galactic Council has called an emergency session to discuss human capabilities. Jiwoo's eyes widened. "Because I defended myself?" "Because you revealed something they did not know," Hyun explained. "They thought they understood humans. We talked about peace and cooperation. We avoided conflicts. We tried to be friendly neighbors. They mistook that for weakness." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the alien city beyond. "I have been an ambassador for 20 years, Jiwoo. I have spent decades trying to convince other species to respect humanity. And you did it in 18 minutes. "I did not mean to cause problems," Jiwoo said quietly. "I know," Hyun replied. "But problems and opportunities often look the same at first. Earth Command wants me to handle this carefully. They are sending someone to help us." The door opened again and a woman entered. She was in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore a civilian suit, but something about the way she moved suggested military training. "This is Dr. Nari Kim," Hyun introduced. "She is a xenoanthropologist, someone who studies how different species understand each other. Earth Command sent her here to help explain what happened." Nari shook Jiwoo's hand gently, careful of her injuries. "It is good to meet you, Corporal Park. You have caused quite a stir." "I did not mean to," Jiwoo repeated. "Of course not," Nari said, sitting down across from her. "But that is exactly why this is so important. You are not trying to prove anything. You were just defending yourself and others. You acted naturally. And in doing so, you showed the galaxy something they needed to see." "What did I show them?" Jiwoo asked. Nari leaned forward. "That human restraint is a choice, not an inability. That when we ask someone to stop, we are offering them a gift. The gift of peace. And when they refuse that gift, when they force violence upon us, we are capable of responding." She pulled up a holographic display showing human evolutionary history. "Do you know why humans are the way we are, Corporal?" "No, ma'am." "Because Earth tried to kill us for millions of years," Nari explained. "Most species in the galaxy evolved on peaceful worlds with few predators, stable climates, abundant resources. They developed technology and civilization without constant life or death struggles. The hologram showed images of Earth, volcanoes, ice ages, predators, diseases. Humans evolved differently," Nari continued. "We survived ice ages that should have killed us. We competed with predators that were bigger and stronger. We faced diseases that wiped out entire populations. Every generation that survived did so because they were tough, adaptable, and willing to fight when necessary. Jiwoo watched the images, seeing her ancestors struggling to survive. We developed something unique, Nari said. The ability to override our survival instincts. To feel fear and pain and exhaustion and continue anyway. The adrenaline response, the fight-or-flight reflex. The capacity to push our bodies beyond normal limits when threatened. Other species do not have this? Jiwoo asked. Not like humans do, Nari replied. Some have parts of it. But humans have all of it, refined over millions of years of barely surviving. When you fought those Kravoth warriors, your body flooded itself with chemicals that made you faster, stronger, more resistant to pain. Your brain shut down unnecessary functions and focused entirely on survival. This is normal for humans. But for most aliens, it is terrifying. The hologram changed to show the marketplace fight from a Kravoth perspective. Nari slowed it down, highlighting specific moments. Watch here, she said. This is when you took the second hit to your shoulder. Medical scans show the damage. Torn muscles, damaged nerves. That should have disabled your arm. But you kept using it, Jiwoo remembered. It hurt, but I needed it. Exactly, Nari said. You needed it, so you used it anyway. The Kravoth watching could not understand this. When they are injured, their bodies force them to protect the injury. It is automatic. But humans can override that. We can tell our bodies, I know it hurts, but do it anyway. Ambassador Hyun spoke up. The Galactic Council wants to understand this. They are calling it the human factor. The ability to continue fighting past the point where other species would stop. They are scared, Nari added, and they should be. Not because humans are violent, but because they realize they have been underestimating us. They have been treating us like children, like a young species that needs guidance. Now they understand we survived Earth, and anything that survives Earth is dangerous if provoked. Jiwoo felt uncomfortable with this. I am not dangerous. I just wanted them to leave the merchant alone. I know, Nari said gently, but that is what makes this so powerful. You are not a soldier on a mission. You are not a warrior looking for glory. You are a security officer who tried to do the right thing. You asked them to stop multiple times. You gave them every chance. She stood and placed a hand on Jiwoo's good shoulder. The galaxy needs to understand something important about humans. We prefer peace. We ask nicely. We try to solve problems with words. But when someone forces violence upon us when they will not stop after we ask them to, we are capable of ending the threat. That is not cruelty. That is survival. Ambassador Hyun pulled up a new document on his screen. Tomorrow you will testify before the Galactic Council. They want to hear your side of the story. They want to understand what happened and why. Jiwoo felt nervous. I am not good at public speaking. You do not need to be, Hyun assured her. Just tell the truth. Explain what happened. Let them see that you are not a monster. You are a person who was forced to defend herself. What about the Kravoth? Jiwoo asked. Will they be there? War Captain Threll has demanded to speak as well, Hyun said. He wants to accuse you of using illegal enhancements or weapons. But I did not, Jiwoo started. We know, Nari interrupted. And the medical evidence proves it. But Threll's pride is hurt. He lost face in front of the galaxy. For a Kravoth warrior, that is worse than losing the fight itself. Jiwoo thought about Threll lying on the ground, fear in his eyes. She had not wanted to humiliate him. She had just wanted him to stop. What should I say? She asked. Ambassador Hyun smiled. Say exactly what you said to them in the marketplace. I asked you to stop. That is all the galaxy needs to hear. 3 months had passed since the marketplace incident. The Galactic Council hearing had been watched by trillions across hundreds of worlds. Jiwoo had testified, telling the truth simply and clearly. She had asked them to stop. They had not stopped. She had defended herself. The medical evidence supported her completely. No drugs, no enhancements, no tricks. Just a human who had been pushed beyond her limit and responded the way millions of years of evolution had taught her species to respond. The Council had ruled in her favor. The Kravoth Empire had been forced to issue a formal apology. War Captain Threll had been stripped of his rank and dishonorably discharged. The other warriors faced lesser punishments, but the real changes happened quietly in the months that followed. Today, Jiwoo stood in a training facility on Valoria 9. It was a large open space with padded floors and practice equipment. Sunlight streamed through high windows, illuminating the 15 aliens who stood before her in training uniforms. They came from different species. Some were tall, some short. Some had scales, some had fur. Some had skin like rubber. But they all wore the same expression: respect mixed with nervous anticipation. Ambassador Hyun had offered her a promotion and a new position. Not security, not combat. Teaching. The Galactic Council had requested that humanity share its combat philosophy with interested species. Jiwoo had been chosen to lead the first class. She had almost refused. She was not a teacher. She was just a security officer who had defended herself. But then Dr. Nari Kim had explained something important. The galaxy needed to understand humans not just through fear, but through knowledge. So here she was, standing in front of 15 students who wanted to learn from the human who had defeated 7 Kravoth warriors. "Good morning," Jiwoo said in Galactic Standard, the common language most species used. "I am Instructor Park. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is not a class about how to hurt people. This is a class about control." One of the students, a blue-skinned Veltran with 4 arms, raised a hand. "Instructor, we saw the video. You hurt those Kravoth warriors very effectively." "Yes," Jiwoo agreed. "But that was not my goal. My goal was to stop them. Hurting them was just the method I had to use when they would not stop voluntarily." She walked along the line of students, making eye contact with each one. Human combat philosophy is built on a simple principle. The greatest victory is the fight you prevent. The second greatest victory is the fight you end quickly with minimal harm. Another student, a reptilian saurid, spoke up. "But you did not prevent the fight in the marketplace." "No," Jiwoo admitted. "I tried. I asked them to stop multiple times. I offered them peace repeatedly. But they chose violence. When someone makes that choice and will not change their mind, your responsibility changes. Then you must protect yourself and others." She moved to the center of the room. "Today I will teach you the first lesson my instructors taught me. It is the most important lesson. Are you ready?" The students nodded eagerly. "The first lesson is this. Fighting is not about strength. It is about understanding yourself and your opponent." She gestured to the largest student, a Kravoth warrior who stood nearly 8 feet tall. The Kravoth Empire had sent him specifically, wanting to understand how a human had defeated their warriors. His name was Tor, and he approached carefully, respectfully. "Tor is much stronger than me," Jiwoo said. "Much larger, much more durable. If we compared physical abilities, he would win in every category. So how did I defeat 7 Kravoth warriors?" Silence. The students did not know how to answer. "I used what humans call adaptability," Jiwoo explained. "I understood my weaknesses and worked around them. I understood their weaknesses and exploited them. Strength is useful, but it is not everything." She demonstrated basic techniques, showing how to redirect force, how to target vulnerable points, how to use environment and momentum to your advantage. The students practiced, slowly at first, then with more confidence. Hours passed. The students learned, fell, got back up, and learned more. During a break, Tor approached Jiwoo privately. The big Kravoth looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "Instructor Park," he said quietly. "I must tell you something. War Captain Threll was my training officer. I learned combat from him." Jiwoo waited, letting him continue. "I watched the video many times," Tor continued. "Each time I saw the same thing. He had many chances to stop. You gave him those chances. He chose not to take them." "Yes," Jiwoo said simply. "I am ashamed," Tor admitted. "Ashamed that he represented my people so poorly. Ashamed that I was taught to see restraint as weakness. I requested to be sent here to learn the truth." Jiwoo put a hand on his massive arm. "Tor, the fact that you are here means you already understand the most important truth. Strength without control is just violence, and violence without reason is just destruction." Tor looked at her with his yellow eyes, so similar to Threll's, but with something different in them: understanding. Will you teach me? He asked. Truly, teach me? Not just the techniques, but the philosophy behind them? That is why you are here, Jiwoo replied. The afternoon session focused on something different. Not physical techniques, but mental discipline. Jiwoo sat with her students in a circle, teaching them breathing exercises and meditation techniques that humans had developed thousands of years ago. Combat begins in the mind, she explained. If your mind is chaotic, your body will be chaotic. If your mind is calm, your body will follow. This is what allows humans to continue fighting when injured. We train our minds to accept pain, acknowledge it, and continue despite it. One student, a small furry Trellin, asked nervously, "But how do you learn to ignore pain? It is your body's way of protecting you." "We do not ignore it," Jiwoo corrected. "We listen to it, understand what it is telling us, and then decide what to do about it. Pain says you are damaged. It does not say you must stop. Those are different things." She showed them the scars on her arm from the marketplace fight. "These hurt very much when I received them. But I needed my arm to continue, so I used it anyway. Later, after the danger had passed, I allowed myself to feel the full pain and get treatment. There's a time for everything." The weeks turned into months. The first class graduated, and the students returned to their worlds, carrying knowledge of human combat philosophy. Some became teachers themselves. Others simply applied the lessons to their own lives. Word spread. More species requested training. The program expanded. Other human instructors joined, teaching across different worlds and stations. One day, Jiwoo received a message through official channels. It was from War Captain Threll, or rather former War Captain Threll. He requested a private meeting. Ambassador Hyun had advised caution, but Jiwoo agreed to meet him. They met in a neutral space, a quiet garden on Valoria 9 with representatives from both governments present. Threll looked different. He was thinner, his scales less vibrant. Losing his rank had hurt him deeply, but his eyes were clearer somehow. Less arrogant. "Corporal Park," he began formally. "I requested this meeting to apologize." Jiwoo had not expected that. "You already issued a formal apology through the council." "That was politics," Threll said. "This is personal. I attacked you when you asked for peace. I struck you when you asked me to stop. I forced you to hurt me and my warriors. For this, I am truly sorry." He bowed, a deep bow that meant genuine respect in Kravoth culture. "I have spent 3 months studying your people," he continued. "Your history, your wars, your survival of Earth. I understand now what you tried to tell me that day. You were not weak. You were showing me mercy, and I was too proud to see it." Jiwoo felt a strange mix of emotions, anger at what he had done, sympathy for what he had lost, respect for him coming here. "I forgive you," she said simply. "You made a mistake. You learned from it. That is what matters." Threll straightened up. "I have a request I know I have no right to ask, but I will ask anyway. Will you teach me? Not the techniques. I do not deserve that. But the philosophy. I want to understand how humans think about combat and peace." Jiwoo looked at Ambassador Hyun, who gave a small nod. "Yes," she said. "But understand this. The first lesson will be the hardest. You will learn to ask people to stop, and you will learn to stop when they ask you to." "I understand," Threll said, "and I will learn." 6 months after the marketplace incident, the Terran embassy held a small ceremony. It was not public. No cameras, no journalists, just a few people who had been involved in the aftermath. Ambassador Hyun presented Jiwoo with a medal for her actions. But more importantly, he shared some statistics that had been gathered. Since the marketplace incident, violent crime on Valoria 9 had decreased by 40%. Species that had previously been bullied were reporting harassment less frequently. When asked why, many said the same thing, because now everyone knew what could happen if they did not stop when asked. "You changed more than just how the galaxy sees humans," Hyun told Jiwoo. "You changed how they see conflict itself. You showed them that asking someone to stop is not weakness. It is an offer of peace. and refusing that offer has consequences. Jiwoo looked around the room. Dr. Nari Kim was there, smiling proudly. Tor stood in the corner, now one of her assistant instructors. Even Threll was present, having been granted special permission to attend.